When the facade finally shattered, I stood in our bedroom holding the evidence that destroyed everything I believed about us. My hands shook, but my mind was suddenly, brutally clear. My name is Gavin Reed, and I'm 35 years old. Each morning I wake at 5:30, make coffee, and check that Clyde and Carly are still sleeping safely in their beds. Clyde, my 8-year-old son, has been having nightmares since that Christmas dinner. Carly, my 5-year-old daughter, still asks when Mommy is coming home. Therese, my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, calculated every lie, every Pilates class where she met Skylar Stewart in hotel room 418. I discovered the truth like finding poison in our family's well. I won't let her lies define our story. I won't let her betrayal destroy what matters most. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. The digital glow of the hidden phone lit up my face in the dim light of our bedroom. I'd found it tucked deep in the toe of Teresa's winter boot while looking for her missing gloves, the expensive leather ones I'd given her last Christmas. Instead, I found something that made my stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. It was a cheap phone, prepaid, the kind you buy when you don't want to leave a trail. My hands felt cold as I scrolled through message after message between my wife and a man named Skylar Stewart. His contact photo showed a corporate type with a sharp haircut and sharper smile. The messages left nothing to the imagination. "Can't wait to feel you against me again," he'd written 3 days ago. "Told G it's Pilates tonight. Same hotel?" Therese had replied. G. That was me, reduced to a single letter in my wife's secret conversations. I sat on the edge of our bed, the mattress we'd picked out together when we first moved into this house. The house I worked double shifts to afford. The home where our children slept down the hall, trusting that their world was solid and safe. Meeting at 7. "We'll bring the wine this time," another message read. "Don't forget room 418. It's our lucky number now," Therese had answered. I could hear her downstairs humming while she made dinner. The casual domesticity of it made me dizzy with rage. How many nights had she served me dinner with these secrets tucked away in her mind? How many times had I kissed her goodbye as she left for Pilates or a study group for her graduate program? Taking a deep breath, I plugged the phone into my laptop and began copying everything. Messages, photos, calendar entries. Each piece of evidence transferred to my flash drive was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. I cataloged dates, times, hotel names. I even found receipts forwarded to her email, room service charges, parking validations. When I finished, I carefully returned the phone to the exact spot in her boot, positioning it just as I'd found it. She couldn't know I'd discovered her secret. Not yet. My hands were surprisingly steady as I dialed Maya Redding's number. Maya had helped my cousin through his divorce last year. I'd saved her contact information, never imagining I'd need it myself. "Maya Redding," she answered on the third ring. "This is Gavin Reed," I said, my voice lower than usual. "I need your help. My wife is having an affair. I have evidence, lots of it." I could hear Maya shifting into professional mode, her voice becoming measured. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Gavin. Tell me what you found and what you want to happen next." I explained everything. The hidden phone, the messages, the recurring Pilates nights that matched hotel receipts. "Don't confront her yet," Maya advised. "And don't leave the house. That could look like abandonment in court. If custody becomes contested, judges look at stability for the children." "The kids," I said, my throat tightening. "They're 8 and 5. They don't deserve this." "Which is why we need to be strategic," Maya said. "Document everything. Continue normal routines. We'll file when you're ready, but preparation is crucial now." After hanging up, I went to check on Clyde and Carly. Clyde was reading one of his space books, the covers pulled up to his chin. Carly had created a nest of stuffed animals around her pillow. "Time for sleep, buddy," I told Clyde, taking the book and marking his page. "Dad, can we have pancakes tomorrow?" he asked, his eyelids already heavy. "Absolutely," I promised, smoothing his hair back from his forehead. In Carly's room, I tucked her favorite rabbit closer to her side. "Sweet dreams, princess," I whispered, though my own dreams had shattered hours ago. After they fell asleep, I moved quietly through the house, packing small overnight bags for each of them, pajamas, fresh clothes, toothbrushes, and their favorite comfort items. Clyde's space shuttle model, Carly's blanket with the stars on it, just in case. I carried the bags to my car and placed them carefully in the trunk, hidden under a blanket. Standing there in the cold December air, I rehearsed what I would say at Christmas dinner at Marjorie and Pete's house next week. I imagined the shock on their faces, the denial that would inevitably follow, and Teresa's attempts to twist the narrative. But I had evidence. Cold, hard, irrefutable evidence. Everyone will know, I whispered to myself as I closed the trunk. The next dinner will change everything. I woke up at 5 the next morning, my body on autopilot despite barely sleeping. The weight in my chest hadn't lifted. If anything, it had settled deeper, like sediment at the bottom of a lake. Therese was still asleep, her breathing even, peaceful. How could she sleep so soundly with such secrets? I slipped out of bed without waking her and headed downstairs to start breakfast. Mixing pancake batter has always been therapeutic for me. There's something about the rhythm of stirring, the transformation of separate ingredients into something whole. It used to make me think about our family, different parts coming together to create something complete. Now that image felt like a cruel joke. When little footsteps padded into the kitchen, I plastered on a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Pancakes," Clyde shouted, climbing onto his usual stool at the counter. "You remembered." "I always remember my promises, buddy," I said, pouring batter onto the griddle and watching it bubble. Carly appeared minutes later, dragging her stuffed rabbit by one ear. "Can mine have chocolate chips, Daddy?" "Already ahead of you, Princess." I dropped a handful of chips onto her pancake, forming a smiley face. By the time Therese came downstairs, I had a stack of pancakes on the table, coffee brewing, and the kids chattering about their plans for the day. Her hair was slightly damp from the shower, and she wore the silver necklace I'd given her for our anniversary. "Morning," she said, kissing my cheek like it was any other day. Like she hadn't been texting another man last night while I read bedtime stories to our children. "Coffee?" I offered, my voice remarkably steady. "Please," she smiled, sitting down beside Carly. "Sorry I missed bedtime last night. The study group ran late. We're cramming for finals." The lie slid so easily from her lips that for a second I almost doubted what I'd seen. But then I remembered the selfie in the red dress, her smile aimed at someone else, and my resolve hardened. "No problem," I said, setting her coffee down. The kids and I managed. Therese took a sip and then brightened. "Oh, I talked to Mom yesterday. They're so excited for Christmas dinner next week. Mom's making her famous ham, and Ryan's bringing his new girlfriend." "Sounds great," I said, flipping another pancake with more force than necessary. "I told her we'd bring that cranberry salad everyone liked last year," she continued, buttering Carly's pancake into tiny pieces. "And I thought maybe we could pick up a nice bottle of wine." I nodded, wondering if Skylar was the wine expert in their relationship. Had he taught her which labels to look for? Had they laughed about my lack of sophistication when it came to vintages and regions? "I need to run errands this afternoon," Therese announced as she helped clear the breakfast dishes. "Christmas shopping. Don't let the kids peek in the trunk when I get back." Another lie. I knew from her messages that she was meeting Skylar at 2 p.m., room 418, their lucky number. "Take your time," I said. "The kids and I will be fine." After she left, I spent the afternoon organizing my evidence. I printed hotel folios, matching them against timestamps from her texts. I created a timeline on a legal pad, noting each Pilates class that coincided with a hotel charge. I even had screenshots of location data from her hidden phone, placing her at the Westlake Hotel rather than the gym. Everything went into a manila envelope, which I slipped into the inside pocket of my jacket. It felt both heavier and lighter than it should have. The weight of truth. When the day of the Christmas dinner arrived, I dressed the kids in their holiday outfits. Clyde in a sweater and khakis, Carly in her red dress with white tights. I helped them into the car, the overnight bags still hidden in the trunk, just in case. "Are we going to get presents tonight?" Carly asked as we drove. "Not tonight, sweetheart. Christmas is still a week away. But Grandma might have cookies." Marjorie and Pete's house was already lit up when we arrived, the walkway lined with glowing snowflakes. Ryan met us at the door, beer in hand. "Hey, man," he said, clapping my shoulder. "Long time no see." I forced a smile, knowing he'd be singing a different tune by dessert. Good to see you too. Inside, the house smelled like ham and cinnamon. Therese was already there, helping her mother in the kitchen. She glanced nervously at her phone when we walked in, then quickly tucked it away. "There's my grandbabies," Marjorie exclaimed, wiping her hands on her apron to hug Clyde and Carly. Pete stood by the fireplace, nursing a whiskey. He nodded in my direction. "Gavin, beer's in the fridge." The next hour was an exercise in restraint. Small talk about work, weather, the kids' school. All while watching Therese check her phone under the table, probably wondering if Skylar had texted. Finally, we gathered around the dining table. Marjorie's china gleamed under the chandelier, cranberry sauce in cut crystal bowls, silver serving spoons laid out precisely. The ham sat in the center, glazed and steaming. "Who wants to say grace?" Pete asked. Ryan volunteered, and we all bowed our heads. I kept my eyes open, watching Therese across the table as Ryan thanked God for family, food, and blessings. Conversation flowed as plates were passed. Laughter echoed. Forks clinked against china. Anyone looking in would see the perfect family Christmas dinner. But it was all about to change. I waited until everyone had been served, until the first few bites had been taken and complimented. Then I carefully placed my napkin on the table, leaned forward slightly and looked directly at Therese. "Therese, where were you on December 3rd, 7th, and 12th? The table fell silent. All eyes turned to me, then to Therese, whose fork paused halfway to her mouth. The dining room went deadly quiet. Forks stopped midway to mouths. Pete's knife hovered over his slice of ham. Carly, oblivious to the tension, continued eating her mashed potatoes, but Clyde looked up, his eyes darting between Therese and me. Therese's face flickered between surprise and anger, before settling on a practiced smile. "At Pilates, Gavin. We've talked about my schedule." Her voice was steady, confident, the voice of someone who'd rehearsed her lies so many times they felt like truth. I'd heard that voice for months now, explaining late nights and missed family dinners. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. With deliberate slowness, I unlocked it and slid it across the table toward her. "Then this is going to be the most advanced Pilates class in town." On the screen was a screenshot of her calendar. "Pilates, Skylar, room 418. Card on file." The color drained from her face as she glanced down, then back at me. "What are you doing?" she hissed, her voice barely audible. "I'm asking where you were," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Because your calendar says you were with someone named Skylar in room 418. Marjorie's hand flew to her mouth. "Therese, what is he talking about?" "Nothing," Therese snapped. "He's being ridiculous." "Stop it," she said to me, lips barely moving. "Stop what? Reading your calendar?" "Pilates, Skylar, room 418, card on file." I pulled out the manila envelope and removed a stack of papers. "Or maybe I should stop reading these hotel receipts. 4 different nights, 2 different properties." Pete set down his knife with a deliberate clank, his face hardening as he looked at his daughter. "Don't twist this." Therese's voice rose. "You're controlling." "Controlling? You hid a phone and a man. That's not a marriage, Therese. That's a shell game." Ryan leaned forward. "Look, Gavin, I think we should—" "You never listen," Therese cut in. "You're always tired." I felt alone. "I worked double shifts so we could afford this house and your grad classes," I shot back, feeling the months of pent-up anger breaking free. "Feeling lonely didn't give you a hall pass." "Keep your voice down, my parents." She glanced toward Marjorie and Pete, panic flashing in her eyes. "They need to hear it." I turned to them. "Marjorie, Pete, meet Skylar Stewart. He's been sleeping with your daughter. These are hotel folios. 4 nights, 2 different properties." I laid them on the table one by one. "Here's a selfie of them together. Here's a car share receipt in his name. And here's a text. Tell Gavin it's Pilates, babe. I'll bring the wine." "Gavin," Marjorie whispered, her face ashen. "This can't be." Therese slapped her palm on the table, making the silverware jump. "You're humiliating me." I matched her volume, feeling the rush of finally speaking the truth. "You humiliated this family when you brought a stranger into our marriage. You lied to Clyde and Carly about why Mommy was late to movie night. You lied to me about the conference in Spokane. You used our joint card to pay for the bar tab. "Don't you dare bring the kids into this," she shouted, pointing a trembling finger at me. "They're already in it," I said, gesturing toward Clyde, who was watching with wide, frightened eyes. "They're the only reason I didn't walk sooner." Ryan stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Dude, this is our home." I stared at him, unblinking. "And those are my children. I'm taking them now. We're done here." I pushed back from the table and moved toward Clyde and Carly. The go bags in my car had everything they needed: pajamas, toothbrushes, their favorite stuffed animals. Maya had been clear. "Do not leave those kids without stability." "Come on, buddy," I said to Clyde, helping him out of his chair. I lifted Carly into my arms, her small body tense against my chest. "We're going home." I led them to the den, kneeling down to eye level. "We're going home now, okay? Movie night and pancakes tomorrow." When I turned to leave, Therese was blocking the doorway, her arms crossed over her chest. Her face was a mask of cold fury. "You can't just take them," she said, her voice dangerously low. "I can because nothing in our temporary orders says I can't. And because you've been living a second life. I won't have them sleeping in a house where that's normal." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that only I could hear. "You're going to regret this." I answered in the same tone, my words precise and final. "Not as much as you will." I brushed past her, the children following close behind. Marjorie was crying at the table. Pete stared at his plate, shoulders slumped in defeat. Ryan stood with fists clenched but made no move to stop us. As we walked out the front door into the cold December night, Clyde looked up at me, his small face pinched with worry. "Dad? Is Mom coming with us?" Behind us, I could hear Therese's ragged breathing, her body trembling with rage as she watched us go. I drove home with white knuckles on the steering wheel, checking the rearview mirror every few seconds to make sure Therese wasn't following us. Clyde sat silently in the back seat, while Carly kept asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. "Is Mommy mad at us?" she whispered, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "No, honey," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. "Mommy and Daddy just need some time apart, but you know what? Tomorrow we're having pancakes for breakfast, and tonight we can watch that movie you've been asking about." "The princess one?" Her voice brightened slightly. "The princess one," I confirmed, meeting her eyes in the mirror. We pulled into our driveway, the house dark and empty feeling even with the Christmas lights still blinking along the gutters. I remembered hanging those with Therese just weeks ago, laughing as she handed me clips from the ladder. Now it felt like looking at artifacts from someone else's life. Inside, I brought their overnight bags from the trunk and set them up in the living room. I didn't want them sleeping in their bedrooms tonight. I needed them close, where I could see them, where I could be certain they were safe. "How about we make a blanket fort?" I suggested. And for the first time since we'd left dinner, Clyde's face relaxed into something like a smile. We draped sheets over the couch and coffee table, piled pillows inside, and I set up the movie on the TV. By the time the princess was singing her second song, both kids were asleep, Carly's head on my lap, Clyde curled against my side. I eased out from under them and reached for my laptop. My hands were still shaking as I typed an email to Maya. "Maya, confrontation happened tonight as planned. I have the children with me at home. Therese knows. Her family witnessed everything. Please advise on next steps. Gavin." I hit send, then sat in the kitchen watching my children sleep through the fort's opening. The Christmas tree lights cast colored shadows across their faces. How had we gotten here? 12 years of marriage. 2 beautiful kids. A house we'd saved for, painted together, filled with memories. And Therese had risked it all for hotel rooms with a stranger. I woke up still sitting at the kitchen table, my neck stiff, the morning sun streaming through the windows. I checked my phone. Maya had responded that she'd call me first thing. I made coffee and opened our banking app to check our balance. The screen loaded, and my stomach dropped. Our joint checking account, the one where my paychecks were deposited, the one that held nearly $6,000, showed a balance of $12.47. I scrolled through the transaction history. At 2:17 a.m., Therese had transferred everything to an account I didn't recognize. I took screenshots, my hands shaking with a new kind of anger. I was making pancake batter when my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Maya. She emptied the accounts. I said without greeting. I suspected she might. Document it, Maya replied, her voice crisp and professional. Listen, Gavin, we have a situation. I just received electronic notification of an emergency filing. Therese is claiming you kidnapped the children and threatened her safety at the dinner. The wooden spoon I was holding snapped in my grip. That's insane. Her whole family was there. It's a tactic. She's trying to get emergency custody by painting you as unstable and dangerous. I need you in my office at 2 p.m. Bring every shred of evidence you have. The kids. Bring them. My assistant will watch them in the conference room. And Gavin? From this moment forward, document everything, every meal, every bedtime, every conversation. We need to establish you as the stable parent. I ended the call and turned back to the pancakes, forcing my hands to stop trembling. Carly wandered into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Pancakes? She asked hopefully. Just like I promised. I managed to smile. Want to help? By the time we arrived at Maya's downtown office, I had a backpack full of binders, screenshots of texts, hotel receipts, financial records, and now the bank transfer from last night. Maya's office was minimalist but warm, with framed diplomas on the wall and a view of the city park. She wore a tailored navy suit, her dark hair pulled back, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed my documents. This is good, she said, nodding as she flipped through the binders. The timestamp on that selfie aligns perfectly with her Pilates calendar entry. Maya's assistant took Clyde and Carly to the conference room with coloring books and tablets. Once the door closed, Maya's expression grew serious. Here's what's going to happen, Gavin. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Thursday morning. Judge Wilson is fair, but by the book. Therese's claims are serious. She's alleging you verbally abused her in front of family and took the children against her will. Her family saw everything. They know I didn't. It doesn't matter what they know. It matters what they'll testify to. Can you count on them to tell the truth, or will family loyalty win out? I thought about Pete's defeated expression, Marjorie's tears. I don't know. Then we prepare as if they're hostile witnesses. Meanwhile, you need to demonstrate unimpeachable stability with those children. Routine meals, regular bedtimes, school drop-offs exactly on time. Take photos, keep a log, use that co-parenting app I mentioned. I drove home with Maya's words echoing in my head. The children were quiet, sensing the tension despite my efforts to shield them. That night, I tucked Clyde into his own bed, answering his questions as honestly as I could without burdening him with adult problems. Is Mom coming home soon? He asked, his eyes searching mine. I don't know, buddy, but I promise you'll see her soon. After reading his favorite space book, I kissed his forehead and turned out the light. In Carly's room, I found her already asleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly against her chest, one thumb half in her mouth. I knelt beside her bed, brushing a curl from her forehead. I won't let her take you through this chaos, I whispered. Not again. Not ever. My phone pinged as I closed Carly's door. It was an email from Maya with the court notice attached. Emergency custody hearing, Reed v. Reed. Thursday, 9 a.m., Judge Wilson. Presiding the next morning, I woke before my alarm. The house had that pre-dawn stillness, the kind that used to feel peaceful before all this started. Now it just felt like the calm before another storm. I grabbed my phone and opened the custody app Maya had insisted on. Document everything, she'd said. If it's not recorded, it didn't happen. I made Clyde's lunch first. Turkey sandwich cut diagonally, apple slices, and those cheese crackers he liked. I took a quick photo of the packed lunchbox and logged it in the app with a timestamp. Breakfast was next. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Another photo, another log entry. Dad, why are you taking pictures of our breakfast? Clyde asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes as he shuffled into the kitchen. Just trying something new, I said, ruffling his hair. How'd you sleep, bud? Okay, I guess. He climbed onto his chair, shoulders slumped. Is Mom coming to get us today? The question hit like a sucker punch. Not today. But you'll see her soon, I promise. I helped Carly with her outfit, the purple dress with leggings she insisted on, and brushed her hair while she clutched her stuffed rabbit. Photo, timestamp, log entry. The drop-offs were methodical. Clyde first, 8:15 a.m. exactly. I walked him to his classroom, had a brief word with his teacher, took a quick photo of us at the school entrance, then Carly at Little Sprouts preschool by 8:45 a.m. Another photo, another log entry. At work, I couldn't focus. My phone buzzed during a meeting about supply chain delays. Unknown number. Is this Gavin Reed? This is Jasmine Stewart, Skylar's wife. We need to talk. I stared at the message, heart pounding. How had she found me? Me. How did you get this number? Jasmine. Left it with the Hampton Inn manager. He called me after you asked about footage. Me. What do you want? Jasmine. To compare notes. Coffee at Birchwood Cafe, 3:30. I got there early, chosen a corner table with my back to the wall. When Jasmine walked in, I recognized her immediately. Tall, athletic build, dark hair pulled back, eyes scanning the room with purpose. She didn't look broken. She looked battle-ready. Gavin? She asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I nodded. Jasmine. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. I found out 3 weeks ago. Company credit card statements that didn't make sense. Then I checked his work schedule against the car's GPS logs. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. These are copies of everything. Car logs showing his vehicle at the Hampton Inn and Fairfield Suites on the dates you mentioned. Security camera footage from his office building, showing him leaving early on those days. And this, she tapped a printed email, is HR questioning his excessive mileage on company vehicles. I leafed through the documents, each page another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm filing for divorce and I want ammunition. Her voice was steady, but I caught the slight tremor in her hands. I heard you confronted her, in front of everyone. I did. Good. The word had a finality to it. Now I need whatever you have on their communication. Texts, emails, anything that proves this wasn't some one-night mistake. I pulled out my own folder and slid it across. Screenshots of everything I found on her second phone. Hotel receipts. Calendar entries labeled Pilates that match hotel bookings. Jasmine's eyes narrowed as she scanned the pages. They really thought they were clever, didn't they? We spent an hour trading information, filling in each other's timelines. Neither of us cried. Neither of us raged. It was like a business transaction, the business of dismantling betrayal. We should keep this between us, I said as we prepared to leave. No social media, no public drama. Agreed. Just court. She gathered her documents. Good luck with your custody hearing. Same to you with the divorce. At home, I cooked mac and cheese with broccoli, Clyde and Carly's favorite comfort food. We ate at the kitchen table, and I logged another meal with photos. After dinner, I pulled out the small artificial Christmas tree I'd bought on my lunch break. It wasn't much, 3 feet tall with pre-strung lights, but Carly's eyes lit up. Can we decorate it now, Daddy? Please? We hung the few ornaments I'd grabbed while Clyde sprawled on the couch with his spacebook, pretending not to be interested but glancing up every few minutes. It's not as big as our other tree, Carly said, placing a silver ball carefully on a branch. No, I agreed, but sometimes the small ones are special too. My phone buzzed. Maya, evidence package looks strong. Be prepared though. Clerk says Therese has submitted character statements. She'll play the devastated mother role hard. Courtroom dramatics likely. I stared at the tree's twinkling lights reflecting in the window glass, creating the illusion of stars. Behind that fragile constellation, I could feel the darkness waiting. I didn't sleep the night before court. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured Therese's face across that Christmas dinner table, the moment when betrayal turned to rage. I checked on Clyde and Carly twice, just watching them breathe. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Maya met me at the entrance, crisp in a navy suit with our evidence binders tucked under her arm. Remember, she said quietly as we walked. No reactions. She'll try to provoke you. I've got it under control. When Therese walked in with her attorney, she looked like she'd stepped out of a Lifetime movie about wronged women. Simple dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, dabbing at non-existent tears. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, entered and called the courtroom to order. Therese's attorney went first, painting a picture of me as controlling and unstable. My client has endured years of Mr. Reed's increasingly volatile behavior, he said. The incident at Christmas dinner, where he humiliated her in front of family, was simply the culmination of this pattern. Then Therese took the stand. On cue, her voice cracked. "He screamed at me in front of everyone," she said, a tear sliding perfectly down her cheek. "He's always been jealous, always checking my phone. I felt trapped. The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen the texts myself, hadn't held the hotel receipts in my hands, I might have doubted my own memory." "And why did you empty the joint account?" her lawyer prompted. "I was scared," she whispered. "The way he looked at me that night. I needed to protect myself." My jaw tightened, but I kept my face neutral, just as Maya had coached. I remembered those pancake mornings when I'd flip them high to make Carly laugh while Therese was at the gym. Those double shifts I'd worked so we could afford the house with the backyard Clyde loved. Then it was our turn. Maya approached the bench with calm precision. "Your Honor, we have evidence that paints a very different picture." She placed our binders before the judge. "These are hotel receipts matching dates when Mrs. Reed claimed to be at fitness classes. These are transcripts of text messages between Mrs. Reed and Mr. Schuyler Stewart, with whom she was conducting an affair." Maya slid across the time-stamped screenshots, the printed transcript of Therese's texts. The judge's eyebrows lifted slightly as she leafed through the pages. "And these," Maya continued, "are vehicle logs from Mr. Stewart's company car, showing his presence at these same hotels on the same dates, provided by Mrs. Jasmine Stewart." Therese's composure cracked. She glanced at her attorney, who shifted uncomfortably. The judge looked up from the binders. "Mrs. Reed, can you explain these hotel receipts that appear to be signed by you?" Therese faltered. "Those meetings were... It wasn't what it looks like." "And these texts discussing how to lie to your husband about your whereabouts?" Therese's attorney tried to intervene, but the judge waved him off. "I made a mistake," Therese said, her voice hardening. "But that doesn't make Gavin a better parent. I'm their mother." The judge studied her for a long moment, then turned to me. "Mr. Reed, do you have anything to add?" I cleared my throat. "I just want stability for my children, Your Honor. They need routine and honesty in their home." The judge nodded, then called a brief recess. When she returned, her decision was clear. "Based on the evidence presented, I am granting temporary primary physical custody to Mr. Reed, with Mrs. Reed to have supervised visitation for a period of 4 weeks, after which we will reassess." Relief washed through me like a physical wave. Maya squeezed my arm as we stood. Outside the courtroom, Therese caught my eye. The mask had slipped. Her face was pure fury. "This isn't over," she hissed as she passed. I picked up Clyde and Carly from my parents' house, hugging them fiercely. "We're going home," I told them, my voice steadier than I'd expected. That evening, I transformed our living room into a movie fort. Blankets stretched between chairs, popcorn in bowls, the small Christmas tree twinkling in the corner. We watched Clyde's favorite space movie, the one where astronauts have to problem-solve their way home. Clyde fell asleep against my chest halfway through, his breathing slow and even. Carly curled under a blanket beside us, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. In that moment, with the weight of my son against my heart, I felt something like peace creep in around the edges of the past month's chaos. "We're gonna be okay," I whispered into Clyde's hair. "Justice is starting to turn." After carrying them both to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through the custody app and logging another day. The clock read just past midnight when I heard a soft thud at the front door. I found an envelope on the welcome mat unmarked. Inside was a printed form, an official Child Protective Services report. My eyes scanned the allegations. Physical abuse hitting Clyde after a tantrum. The report cited Carly's school nurse as the reporting party. My hands started to shake. The room seemed to tilt sideways. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This wasn't about hotel receipts or hurt feelings or even custody schedules. This was character assassination. The doorbell rang at 8:15 the next morning. 2 people stood on my porch, a woman with a tight bun and a clipboard, and a younger man with a department lanyard. "Mr. Gavin Reed?" the woman asked. "I'm Sandra Wilkins from Child Protective Services. This is my colleague, Derek. We need to speak with you regarding a report concerning your children." My throat tightened, but I nodded and stepped aside. Come in. They entered, eyes already scanning the living room, the folded blankets from our movie fort, Carly's stuffed rabbit on the couch, Clyde's space book stacked on the coffee table. Daddy? Clyde appeared in the hallway, still in his rocket ship pajamas. He froze when he saw the strangers, his eyes growing wide. It's okay, buddy, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. These people just need to talk to us for a little bit. The woman smiled at Clyde, then turned to me. We received an anonymous report alleging physical abuse, specifically that you struck your son after a tantrum. Clyde's face crumpled. Dad didn't hit me. He burst into tears, backing away. Why are they saying that? Why are they here? I moved toward him, but the CPS workers stepped between us. Standard procedure, the man named Derek murmured, not unkindly. Carly appeared behind Clyde, clutching her rabbit. She took one look at her brother crying and the strangers in our house and ran to me, wrapping herself around my leg. I understand you need to do your job, I told the CPS workers, trying to stay calm while my insides churned. I'd like to cooperate fully. The allegations are completely false. For the next hour, they interviewed me, then spoke with Clyde and Carly separately. I showed them the children's bedrooms with their neatly made beds and favorite toys. I opened the refrigerator stocked with their favorite foods and the custody app on my phone with detailed logs of every meal, bedtime, and school drop-off. You keep very detailed records, Sandra observed. I'm in the middle of a custody dispute with their mother, I explained. My attorney advised documentation. She nodded, making notes. We'll need to speak with your son's teacher and the school nurse. Of course, I said, though my heart hammered against my ribs. Whatever you need. After they left, Clyde wouldn't let go of me. Are they going to take us away? He whispered against my shirt. No, buddy. No one's taking you anywhere. I squeezed him tight, hoping I wasn't making promises I couldn't keep. That afternoon, while the kids napped, exhausted from the morning's stress, I called Maya. They came, I said quietly. CPS. Interviewed the kids. Checked the house. Maya cursed under her breath. I was afraid of this. Gavin, I hate to say it, but this has Therese written all over it. The report mentioned Carly's school nurse as the reporter, but that can't be right. The nurse adores Carly. I'll call the school tomorrow. If the nurse denies making the report, we can prove it was falsified. Maya's voice hardened. Stay calm, document everything. These investigations usually close quickly when there's no evidence. And if they don't? Her pause lasted too long. Let's cross that bridge if we come to it. For 2 nights, I barely slept. I'd check on Clyde and Carly repeatedly, watching their peaceful faces and wondering if someone would try to take them from me. Every creak in the house made me jolt upright. Every car that slowed on our street sent me to the windows. The uncertainty was worse than finding Therese's hidden phone. This wasn't just betrayal, it was an attempt to destroy me. On the 3rd day, Sandra Wilkins called. Mr. Reed, I wanted to let you know personally that we're closing the file as unsubstantiated. The school nurse confirmed she made no report and we found no evidence supporting the allegations. I thanked her, hung up, and collapsed into a kitchen chair. Relief coursed through me, but close behind it came something darker. Rage. Cold, focused rage. That evening, after getting the kids settled with a movie, I heard a knock at the door. Mrs. Klein, my elderly neighbor, stood on the porch. Gavin, she said without preamble, I think you should see this. She held out her phone, open to a Ring doorbell app. I was checking my security footage from 3 nights ago and noticed something concerning. Mrs. Klein pressed play. The timestamp showed 11:42 p.m. 2 figures appeared at the edge of her camera's view. Therese and a man I recognized as Skylar Stewart, standing near my driveway in the darkness. Don't want to be on camera, Skylar was saying. Relax. Therese's voice came clearly through the speaker. We're just having a conversation in a public street. Is it done? He asked. Filed anonymously this morning. If this doesn't scare him, nothing will. What if they investigate you? Therese laughed softly. I said it was the school nurse who reported it. They'll waste time chasing her down. Just say Clyde fell off the couch, Skylar added. They'll connect the dots. Mrs. Klein stopped the recording. I should have checked it sooner. I'm sorry. I stared at the frozen image of my wife, the mother of my children, plotting to use false abuse allegations to take our kids. May I have a copy? I asked, my voice unnaturally calm. Mrs. Klein nodded. Already emailed it to you. I thanked her and closed the door, leaning against it. On the phone screen, Teresa's voice replayed in my head. If this doesn't scare him, nothing will. I didn't sleep that night. The ring footage played on repeat in my mind. Teresa and Skylar plotting to weaponize child protection services against me, against our kids. By 6 a.m., I was pacing the kitchen floor, waiting for Maya's office to open. As soon as the clock hit 8:30, I called her. I need to see you, now. I have something that changes everything. An hour later, I sat in Maya's office, watching her face as she viewed the ring footage for the third time. Jesus, she whispered, setting her phone down. This is exactly what we needed. Can we use it? Use it? Maya's professional composure broke into a fierce grin. Gavin, this is the smoking gun. She fabricated a child abuse report. That's not just unethical, it's illegal. Maya typed furiously on her laptop. I'm preparing subpoenas immediately. We need the hotel's security footage from the lobby on December 12th. We need IP logs showing where that CPS report originated from. And we need every piece of digital evidence linking Teresa's devices to this. How long? Days, not weeks. Judge Harmon has zero tolerance for false reporting. When he hears this, she shook her head. Let's just say I'd rather be on our side of the courtroom. For the next 3 days, I moved through life like a machine. Drop-offs, pickups, meals, bedtime stories, all while my mind raced ahead to the hearing. Maya texted updates constantly, subpoenas approved, footage secured, IP logs matching Teresa's iPad. We've got it all, Maya said during our final prep meeting. The hotel footage confirms she was with Skylar when you were home with the kids. The IP address from the CPS report matches her iPad. And the ring audio is crystal clear. I stared at the mountain of evidence. Will it be enough? Maya squeezed my shoulder. More than enough. This isn't just about custody anymore. This is about perjury and filing a false report. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. Navy suit, crisp white shirt, the tie Clyde had given me last Father's Day. I dropped the kids at my parents' with extra hugs. Good luck, my mom whispered. The courthouse loomed like a fortress of marble and glass. Inside the conference room, Therese sat with her attorney, her face a mask of practiced innocence. When our eyes met, something shifted behind hers. Recognition, perhaps, that something had changed. Maya arranged our evidence binders with surgical precision. I sat beside her, hands steady, breathing even. Therese leaned across the table, her voice low and venomous. You're destroying me. I looked at her. Really looked at her, the woman I'd married, the mother of my children. Now a stranger plotting to take my kids with lies. I'm not destroying you, I replied, my voice quiet but firm. I'm ending what you started. Her attorney pulled her back just as Judge Harmon entered. The hearing began with formalities, but quickly turned to Maya, presenting our new evidence. Your Honor, we have proof that Ms. Reed fabricated the CPS report and conspired with her paramour to create false allegations against my client. The ring footage played through the courtroom speakers. Judge Harmon's expression darkened with each word from Teresa's mouth. He requested to hear it again. Ms. Reed, he said after the second playing, can you explain why your voice is on this recording discussing filing a false report? Therese shifted in her seat. It's taken out of context. And can you explain why the IP address from the CPS report matches your iPad? Someone must have used my iPad. And the hotel security footage showing you entering with Mr. Stewart on December 12th, when you claimed to be at a Pilates class? Her answers crumbled with each question. The judge reviewed Jasmine Stewart's car logs, the hotel folios, the forged report. The evidence formed an unbreakable chain. Judge Harmon removed his glasses. I've seen enough. This court grants Mr. Reed sole physical custody for 1 year. Ms. Reed will have supervised visitation only, pending completion of court-mandated counseling and a perjury review. Funds removed from joint accounts will be repaid from Ms. Reed's settlement share. and I am referring the forged CPS report to the district attorney's office." The gavel struck with finality. Outside the courtroom, Teresa's attorney hustled her away, already discussing appeals and damage control. Maya packed our materials, beaming. "Congratulations, Gavin. This was as complete a victory as I've ever seen." I nodded, unable to form words around the lump in my throat. As we walked out of the courthouse, sunlight hit my face, warm and clarifying. I pulled out my phone and texted Marjorie, "The kids can see you Saturday." Her reply came quickly. "Thank you, I'm so sorry." I typed back, "So am I, but we're done pretending." I slipped my phone into my pocket and took a deep breath. The war had turned, not with a bang, but with truth laid bare in the light. Saturday morning arrived crisp and clear. I stood at the kitchen counter, brewing coffee and listening to Clyde and Carly play in the living room. Their voices drifted through the house. Light, untroubled, the way children's voices should sound. When the doorbell rang, Carly came running. "Is it Grandma?" "Let's find out." I scooped her up, balancing her on my hip as I opened the door. Marjorie stood on the porch, clutching 3 casserole dishes stacked in her arms. Behind her, Pete shifted his weight, a toolbox dangling from one hand. Their faces wore matching expressions, hopeful but uncertain, like people testing thin ice. "We brought lunch," Marjorie said, "and dinner, and tomorrow's lunch." I stepped back. "Come on in." Marjorie bustled into the kitchen, already talking about chicken and rice, about how Clyde loved her mac and cheese, about how she'd made Carly's favorite strawberry jello. The words tumbled out like she was afraid silence might swallow her chance. Pete nodded at me man to man, then headed straight for the loose cabinet hinge in the kitchen, the one I'd been meaning to fix for weeks. "Don't trouble yourself with that," I said. "No trouble." He was already pulling out a screwdriver. "Noticed it last time." That was Pete's way. He'd never say, "I'm sorry my daughter lied and tried to take your children." He'd say it with tightened hinges and fresh caulk around the bathtub. Clyde appeared in the doorway, eyeing his grandparents cautiously. Since the court hearing, he'd grown more protective of our new normal, wary of anything that might disrupt it. "Hey, buddy," I said. "Grandma and Grandpa came to visit." Marjorie knelt, arms open. For a moment, Clyde hesitated. Then he walked into her embrace and something in the room softened. "Want to build a fort?" he asked, his voice small but decisive. "I'd love that," Marjorie answered, her eyes glistening. We moved to the living room where Clyde had already arranged couch cushions into a foundation. Carly danced around them, clutching her stuffed rabbit, the one constant through all the upheaval. Pete set down his tools and joined in, holding up blankets while Clyde directed operations with the seriousness of a tiny foreman. I stepped back, watching them. The scene before me, this simple, ordinary moment of family and comfort, had seemed impossible just weeks ago. The storm we'd weathered had been brutal, but here we stood on the other side, rebuilding. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Therese again. 3 messages since morning. "I miss them so much. Please let me see them without the supervisor. Skylar's gone. I've learned my lesson. I'll do anything. I'm in therapy now. Please, Gavin, just an hour." Each text more desperate than the last. I opened the court-approved communication app and typed my only response. "Supervised visitation continues as ordered by the court. Tuesday, 4 p.m. I slipped the phone away, refusing to let her chaos intrude on this moment. Ryan had taken her in after Skylar abandoned her once things got serious. Skylar's wife Jasmine had filed for divorce the day after our court hearing. His company terminated him for misuse of resources after Jasmine brought them the car logs and hotel receipts. Meanwhile, the district attorney was still reviewing the forged CPS report. Maya's word for it was, "building a case." "Dad, look," Clyde called. The fort now dominated the living room, blankets draped from chairs to the couch, pillows lining the floor inside. "That's amazing, buddy," I said, crawling in to join them. Inside the fort, time slowed. Marjorie read to Carly while Pete and Clyde discussed the structural integrity of their creation. I leaned back against a cushion, watching my children smile and laugh in the soft, filtered light. Later that evening, after Marjorie and Pete left with promises to return next weekend, I sat with Clyde and Carly beneath our Christmas tree. The big one, not the small, desperate tree I'd put up during the worst days. This one stood tall and bright, a testament to survival. Clyde curled against my side with his favorite space book. "Read the Mars chapter again," he requested. Carly was already half asleep against my other arm, her rabbit tucked under her chin. As I read about distant planets and new horizons, the Christmas lights cast a warm glow across their faces. Carly's breathing deepened into sleep. Clyde's eyes grew heavy. "You know, if you've ever been betrayed like I was, if someone took your trust and spent it on their own appetites, I want you to hear this. Betrayal doesn't end you. It ends the lies. It burns away the false security you thought you needed and leaves behind what's real, what's worth fighting for." I looked around at the quiet house, at my sleeping children, at the Christmas lights reflecting in the window. This home, our home, wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And in that honesty, we'd found our way back to peace. Here, under these glowing lights, love no longer lies. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.